To all who come to this ragged place, welcome. And since you're here, why don't we start the show today? We've got Nick Brygidyr if you're nasty. He's a luthier, which means he handcrafts guitars for a living. I thought this was awesome, so I really wanted to talk to him. We had a great conversation. We talked about his life and what he had to do in order to get to this stage of actually creating guitars for a living. We talked about the ups, the downs, and everything in between. We even talked about 90s nu metal music, which I didn't expect to talk about, but hey, this is Ragged World. This is an adult conversation. So your virgin ears may hear something you didn't expect, and don't let that throw you. Nick was a great person and a great guest, and that's really all you need to know to get into this podcast. So without further ado, Nick Brygidyr, Ragged World, let's go. That's the thing, man. I think a lot of people are more nervous these days when it comes to talking and social stuff. Do you find that?
Oh yeah, especially the last 2 years. I mean, all this craziness that's been going on. Yeah, like the new shop I moved into, actually the co-op. I moved into it pretty much at the height of the pandemic, and that was really like, do I really want to do this? Because we're 10 guys in that shop in close quarters and all that, and the whole COVID thing going on. Wearing masks. We're all the vaccine wasn't even a thing when I moved in. We
Wow.
had no idea what was going to happen, or I had no idea what was going to happen. So yeah, that was a big thing, but
That's amazing. That's amazing. You decided to take the jump anyway. All right, so
yeah. So how did I get started doing this?
that's
I've been
basically it. I
woodworking
mean,
for
how did you get
yeah,
started? Why did you like? I guess it starts with woodworking, but did it evolve into guitar
yeah,
making? Okay. So what
yeah.
happened?
I can actually look at my diploma. Where is it? 2007.
Wow.
So
All
that's
right.
when I started woodworking. 2007. Um, how did I get into it? I was always like in bands playing guitar and stuff like that, but I never wanted to start being a guitar builder. That was never in my mind to do that. And so, I'd always see like, oh, these guitar kits and stuff like that, uh, that you can like buy a finished neck, buy a rough body that's unfinished, and you just kind of like put it together and that's it.
Oh.
But back in 2007, I was in a band, it broke up, and I was like, what am I gonna do now?
Oh.
And actually, yeah, and I heard about this cabinet making program and it was like free tuition for 14 months,
Whoa.
and they teach you how to build stuff. And I said, you know what? I've always kind of built stuff here and there with wood, nothing too crazy. So I I'll give it a shot. It's free. I have nothing to lose. And yeah, I loved it. Totally fell in love with it. Um, and it was great because they kind of taught you a little bit of everything in that school. A little bit of carving, some veneer work, a little bit of like bending wood and stuff like that. But it was furniture. Um, so did that, worked in a kitchen shop for a while, and I was really not enjoying that because it's just you're working with like melamine and stuff like that. It stinks. You're working with contact cement all the time,
Yeah.
and you're just making these boring boxes that you're nailing together. So I got a little bit of money and got some tools, and I said, okay, um, let me see if I can do this on my own, doing furniture. And yeah, many years, like 10 years or something.
Wow.
Just yeah, just kind of teaching myself this and that. Sometimes taking different workshops, like I went to this one school in British Columbia, Inside Passage, for like a little bent lamination, like bending wood, how to
All
bend
right.
wood, the science behind it, how to do it. Um, then I did a little more construction course in California at the College of the Redwoods, which is now
Oh.
called the Krenoff School. I think they changed the name to.
Okay.
Um,
Interesting. I guess a
so
person
yeah,
must
that
have
that
passed away or something, and they changed the
yeah,
name to
yeah,
them.
James Krenoff. He was kind of like when I was back in furniture school, looking through like, what do I want to do at the end of this? Where do I see myself in a few years? And he wrote a bunch of books, and they're really like, it's more like the philosophy behind uh, building little useless cabinets, you would sometimes call them, because they were like these little tiny things, but just intricately put together. And he would like, his big thing was like letting the wood speak, not I don't know how to say this, but just like a nice panel of wood, and you let the wood speak. You let the wood do the
Oh,
talking. So
wow.
that was kind of like, I was like, oh, okay, that I'm into that. I get it.
Feels almost
Um,
like a Michelangelo, sort of way
kind
of
of,
looking at
yeah.
it, where like the piece is gonna be there and you can just let it go for itself in a way.
He
But
he 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 always said if he didn't have two beautiful doors, then he didn't continue. Like he just put it aside and started something else.
wow.
Um, So yeah, I came out of the cabinet making course with that kind of like, I wanted to start working in that direction. So I did for a bunch of years, doing fine furniture, and that was great. But I kind of always had like guitar building in the back of my mind, just like, man, like one day I would love to do it. I would love to build a guitar. Um, so about 4 years ago, um, I just asked my buddy that I went on tour with, Joe Egan. He moved to Vancouver and he started building guitars. I think he's been building for about 10 years now or something. And he's building like really wacky stuff. And I just asked him straight up, do you think I have like the skills to build a guitar right now? And he's like, dude, totally,
Oh,
like
nice.
without a doubt. So he's just like, make this thick, do this, do that, and if you have any questions, ask me. And so I said, okay. Bought some wood, bought a set of tuners, a bridge, pickup, and put together my first guitar. And I and I thought it was like the best guitar ever, man. Look at this thing.
Of
But
course.
now looking at it, I it's not a guitar anymore. It's just like two pieces of wood hanging out in the corner. I just, harvested all the parts off of it and built another one out of it. But that was like the first one, and the big thing about that was that it was a success. It was a
Nice.
guitar that stayed in tune and played. And then I was like, okay, I can do this. Let me try again and again. And then a bunch of my friends, because I'm posting on Instagram and whatever, that, oh, here's my first attempt at a guitar. And they were like, dude, you're finally building a guitar. Like it's about time.
Ah, so they all
So
knew that that was something that you were
yeah, they
into.
they kind of were like, we were waiting for you to start building guitars. So
Wow.
yeah, and then, one of my buddies bought one. I warned him. I said, look, man, I still don't know what I'm doing really, but I'll do my best. And he's still playing it and he loves it.
Wow.
So that was like, 4 or 5 years ago.
And just got into
Yeah.
it. And wow, so like it's sort of something. I was curious what kind of band you were in back before all of this craziness began.
uh, we played like kind of like death metal kind of
Nice.
stuff. I was really young. I think I was 18. I was
Oh
18
yeah.
at the time.
All right.
Yeah, 17, 18. Yeah.
So you're playing death metal and moved
That
on to cabinets and furniture. You realized melamine and contact cement was not for you, but then the more
No,
artistic
not for
side
me.
of
No, not.
using wood.
Yeah, definitely the more artistic side of it.
And then your friends were like,
Um,
okay, come on, man. Finally, you're building guitars. So this was sort of like obvious to a lot of people, but maybe not to you right away.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just do what I do, and hope for the best. But
But it sounds
and
like
and
you put some effort into it too, though, because what I heard in the story is that not only did you take this course that was free right here, but also you went to Vancouver, you went to California, you pursued this to a few different directions. Like you pursued it seriously, it seems to me. At least
yeah,
the woodworking
extremely
side of
seriously.
things.
Yeah. Like I love woodworking. I mean, it's not always easy and it's pretty dangerous, but it's pretty cool, like that you're able to take like rough wood and turn it into into this, you know? And there's a lot of steps involved, obviously, and you're always kind of, you can't let your skills dull. You always have to like kind of like, okay, I'm kind of slipping with this. I have to concentrate on this aspect more. And that's what, going to Vancouver in California was. It was like not really like kind of like a refresher course or just like they have like they've been doing it for so long, so they can show you like a tip here to make this step easier or to make this more successful, stuff like that. You kind of always have to be on top of your game in
Wow.
terms of that.
And you said eventually now
I,
you. Oh yeah, go please.
I do love it. That's the other thing too. If you're not into it, if you're not in, then there's really no point in doing it
Yeah,
because
if you're not in, you
you're
might as
not
well
going to
be
be in
out.
it. Yeah, because it's like I said, it's dangerous. It's hard work. It's not easy.
Mhm.
There's not fun. Like sanding wood, I hate sanding. I wish I could, just like build this and give it to someone and have it sanded for me because I absolutely hate sanding.
Maybe I have to start
But
making rough wood guitars.
oh, I'm
Call
tempted.
it style.
I'm
Call it a
tempted.
style.
Call it style. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So how did you end up? How did the co-op happen? Because I know you said earlier that you right in the middle of the pandemic you ended up
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
into a woodworking co-op with a bunch of other
Well,
dudes.
yep. It's the Milan Guitar Co-op.
Nice.
So how did I get into it? Well, so I'm self-taught building guitars. I just decided one day, you know what, I'm going to build a guitar,
Wow.
watch some YouTube videos, ask some other builders on online, like how do I do this? How do I do that? Um, you can get pretty far doing that, and a lot of people have success. But I just found that there were like always like missing steps. Like I'm not sure how to do this correctly because I just kind of like sussed it out on my own how to do it. Like I don't know, like carving a neck, like
Hmm.
arguably the most important part of a guitar is the neck. It's just kind of like I don't know. It just kind of turns out. So all right. Um, I've always heard about the co-op, and when I got more serious into building guitars, I asked one of my old teachers from the cabinet making school, "Do you know anyone that's building guitars?" He said, "Yeah, actually, one of our students is part of this co-op because he was kind of he was going from guitar making into furniture,
Hmm.
and I was doing the opposite, going from furniture into guitar making."
Okay.
And so we met up, and he's like, "Yeah, this is the co-op," and I was like, "Wow, it's this huge." Uh, I don't know it's just this like guitar building clubhouse. It's like the coolest shop in town, basically. And I was really yeah, they weren't looking at for a member at the time, right? Because we have 10 members and that's it, you
Ends
know.
there.
So the only way to get in is if someone leaves, basically.
Wow.
So they weren't looking, and I had my shop, and I was happy where I was at the time. So fast forward to I guess like a little over a year ago, pandemic, COVID, everything's shut down, the world's ending, you know, what am I doing? And they had, and I got into contact with one of the members there, Oliver, um, and he's like, "Hey, are you looking for a new shop? Because one of our members is leaving." So I said, "Oh yeah." And he said, "Yeah, come check it out." So I checked it out, and I was really like taken aback. I was like, "These guys are way better than me. I don't belong here. There's no way I'm gonna stay here. No, it's not gonna happen." And I kind of told Oliver that, and he was like, "No, no, no, man. Like, try it out." Because how it works is once a member leaves, someone's interested in coming, me, uh, you're on probation for 4 months.
Whoa.
So
Serious.
yeah, yeah, it's serious. You're on probation for 4 months, and just kind of check you out. How is this guy working? Is he dangerous in the shop, or is he okay? Is he serious? Is he building okay stuff? Is there potential for him? So at
Mm.
the end of 4 months, um, they vote, or we vote, because I got voted in. So
All right.
you get voted in. You're either in or out after 4 months. And
Wow.
after that, you're a full member and happy days ahead.
So you got voted in. Congratulations.
I got voted in. Yeah.
Wow.
So that's been, well, 1 year was last November. So what, like, a year and a bit now.
A year and a bit.
Um,
And I was going to
yeah,
ask
it
you,
was
so with
great.
these guys that you felt like, oh, these are amazing guitar makers. I don't belong here, that kind of
Yeah.
feeling. Did you feel that now after a year with being with these guys, does being around a group of people who you feel have a higher skill level than you make a difference in your skill level?
Oh, absolutely. Since I've joined, my skill level has skyrocketed,
Wow.
and I basically went there with the intention of like really absorbing as much information as I could from these guys, because they've been, uh, each of them have been building for over 10 years. So they all have like 10 years worth of experience, more or less. Not all of them, like some are just as building guitars as long as I have, maybe 4 or 5 years. But some of them, like Jeremy Clark, he's been building guitars for I think 15 years or something.
Hmm.
Same with Mike Kennedy, they've been
Wow.
building for a long time. So they know all the tricks, they know what's going to work, what doesn't. And I just found like I would be, thinking of doing something, and I could just like ask them, do you think this is going to work? And they'd either say maybe, or yes, or definitely not, don't do that. Um, so I kind of like reinvented my work since I've joined, because I only built solid body electric guitars up until then, because
Right.
they're easy. They're just a hunk of wood with a neck screwed to it with some electronics, and you don't have to worry about anything past that.
Wow.
Um,
And I started to notice like in your Instagram semi-hollow and hollow bodies, right? So is that's what you ended
yep.
up getting into that? And so what's the progression there?
So I'm at the shop. I'm new. I have no idea what I'm doing there. Every day, I'm like, why am I here? So I just started drawing out like a new solid body shape, and I was like, why am I just going to keep doing what I've always been doing when they're like the best acoustic builders in Canada, arguably in this shop? So and I missed bending wood. Like I think bending wood is the coolest thing you can do. Everybody's blown away by it. Even that people that do it say like, "Wow, this piece of wood used to be straight. Now it's like it's bent into this guitar shape here." Um,
So cool. And
it is, right?
I noticed that even when I was looking at guitar history because I was like, okay, I got to be ready to talk to Nick. So I looked at the way they used to make lutes, or even I think it was called a hoot back in the Arabic times, and the body is that round shape. It kind of like the way like a mariachi's guitar would look.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I like I think that's more of like coopering, how they make barrels. It's just like a piece of wood with like, okay, here, with slight angles on each side. So when you glue them together, you get that dome shape. I
For
think that's how
sure.
they made.
But this old,
Kind of like a
old,
Roman
like,
arch.
indeed, indeed. Well, this old
Yeah.
like thing called a hoot, which is where the lute comes from, was
Hmm.
small strips bent one by one. I think using heat or something like this. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's what.
Heat and moisture.
Oh, there you go. So like,
That's how I do it. Yeah. You thin the wood down enough, maybe I think I take my sides down to 1.6 or 1.7 millimeters. Spritz a little bit of water on it, and you just hold it against this extremely hot piece of metal, and the wood just relaxes into the
whoa,
shape, and you're just kind of like massaging that shape out of that strip of wood,
that's so
and
cool.
just holding it against your mold, and just going back every once in a while. That was the coolest part. So going back to me like reinventing
Indeed.
how I was building guitars, um, I just missed that bending wood, and I was like, you know what? I think my first guitar here is going to be like a semi-hollow. And they're like, yeah, yeah. I'm like, yeah, let me try it out. And I did, but it super steep learning curve. I basically had to learn guitar building again. Just there's so much work involved in the body. Like the neck is the same, but the body, the sides are bent. It's hollow, so you have to compensate. You have to strengthen it somehow because
Yeah.
all that string tension is pushing on that top, and there's nothing under that top. So you have to ensure that it won't collapse with all that tension.
And
Just
I think
designing it, building the molds, all that.
was it
It was a lot of work.
was it the guy Martin from who made eventually became Martin Guitars that came up with that I don't know, it's a some sort of V inner body bracing structure or maybe some kind of structure on the
I
inside
have no idea. I
I
have
was
no idea.
see. This is what always happens. I go too deep into
Y-
it and bug people with the nonsense from the past. But I think that's it, right? There's some kind of a strut system that's holding that bridge of the guitar where like the strings are in place, so that it doesn't just rip off. Or how does that go? I mean, I know so little about guitars, so
Well, like the guitars I'm building now are kind of like they're not true arch tops because nothing's carved,
okay,
but all the string tension is pushing down on the top here.
okay.
Um, an acoustic guitar, the strings are fed into the top, and the top gets kind of like pulled up.
Oh,
Um,
whoa,
yeah,
okay.
so it's like this is like the opposite of an acoustic guitar, of a flat. They're called flat top guitars
Flat
because
tops.
the tops are uh, generally like pretty close to being flat, and the strings pull it up. With this one, there's pretty extreme curve across the width here,
Yeah, I see.
kind of
It's
like a
really
Roman
wide.
arch, kind of like a Roman arch, right? All the
Nice.
tension's being pushed down, and the tension's being distributed across the whole top so that it doesn't collapse.
I'm part Italian, so
That's
you're winning me over with the Roman arch stuff.
well, there you
Um,
go. It's crazy. I mean, stuff like that it's they figured it out, and you can't beat it. Strength wise, domes, that's the
ah,
same sort of idea. It just like disperses that tension across the top.
nice. So it's cool
Yeah,
that you're trying to would you say that you're trying to always expand your skill in this then because obviously you were like, hey, first guitar I'm going to make is something that is outside of my current wheelhouse. So is what it
absolutely.
yeah.
With each guitar I finish, I always like look at it, and I say, how can I improve the next one? What do I need to work on the next time? Whether it's the sound hole shapes here that I came up with. Well, actually, I borrowed from Bob Benedetto, but yeah, they're cool looking.
Yeah.
Um, Stuff like that. Or I wind my own pickups, and the big thing was I always looked at Carl Thompson. He builds basses, and they're very like to describe them are woody. There's like a lot of wood in them, and he covers his pickups in wood. They're like in wooden boxes, and I'd see that and say, I gotta come up with a way to do it on my own because it
Mhm.
just looks so cool having this. It's all wood. Everything's wood. The bridge is wood and everything, and you have this pickup that's very mechanical looking,
It's like all metal and it sort of
the
throws off the
wires and all
aesthetic.
that stuff. Yeah. And again, I came up with that at the shop, just like bouncing ideas around with the guys and saying, hey, how about this? Winding it, building a little wooden box and filling it with epoxy. And that's it.
Wow,
Um,
that's cool.
yeah, it is cool, and it really fits the aesthetic. And again, it's like, can I shrink it more? Can I make it daintier looking? Um, what I always remembered was when Steve Jobs and Apple were coming up with the iPod. I remember reading that he took the first iteration of it and he dunked it in water and all these bubbles came out of it. And he's like, look, that's like empty space that we can get rid of. So
Wow.
I'm always kind of like thinking of that like that, how can I minimize and like trim the fat off of everything?
So I guess that's a question too. What makes a guitar beautiful or aesthetically beautiful, in your opinion? Like, what are some of the things for you? Obviously, I mean, you obviously like the wood and all of that kind of stuff too. But like, what are some of the things I might not have thought of, or just what's your opinion on it?
I think just like a general balance, you know, in terms of aesthetic. Do the curves match? Is the headstock, wait, I can't point here. Is the headstock shape, does it have the same curves flowing? Do they jive with each other? Are the proportions off? Is the waist, could it be higher up, lower down? Is it an overall good looking guitar? Never mind the sound. I mean, I think if it's a good looking guitar, if there's a nice finish on it, if it feels good too, that's a big thing. Uh, that'll kind of sell it more than the sound, maybe. I mean,
Oh
in
yeah.
terms of acoustics, no. But that's why I always put a pickup in my guitar. So if it acoustically sucks, you can just plug it up to an amp and it'll
You're
sound
ready to
great.
go.
I'm ready to go. I got my bases covered.
Nice.
But yeah, so like talking about what I'm always like trying to push myself. I developed these guitars in mind of their number one, an electric guitar. Uh, acoustics are secondary. If you can play it unplugged and it sounds good, great, good for you. But now I'm kind of shifting my focus onto like focus more on the acoustic sound and the electric, not secondary, but just like kind of have uh, being able to mix both together. And that's like the beauty of these guitars is that you can have a mic up to the sound hole so you get the acoustic sound and you have the amplified sound and you can balance and mix those two together
Oh, that's
so you
cool.
get both. Yeah, that is cool.
Wow, no, that's very cool because, like, again, like you said, if I guess because you come from a band perspective as well, you're in a band, so you know that it should sound a certain way. But usually, you are looking at mostly acoustic or electric. This gives you a little bit of both. That's probably
Yeah.
almost like a resonant sound. That's going to be something different, kind of cool.
Yeah, from my understanding, archtops were developed for like the jazz scene, like the clubs, playing at clubs and stuff like that. Um, before the days of amplification, they needed these guitars to literally like punch and push the sound towards the audience, to the back of the rooms. That these are like loud guitars that boom, boom, boom. Um, then like pickups were invented and amplification came around. So now the focus of having that push uh pushing the notes out of the guitar is kind of like stepping back because we have the amplification to do that.
Yeah.
So now they're not quite acoustic, like they are acoustic guitars, but they're not flat top guitars. They are different. They're still different in that sense, because like you said, a flat top guitar, there's a whole bunch of braces and under the top. There's only two tone bars here really under the
Oh,
top. There's nothing else under this.
wow.
Um, and the purpose of them is to basically match the vibration up across the width and the length because I think it'll vibrate quicker across the width than it will along the length. So you're basically spreading that vibration out across the top so it's more even of a
Whoa.
vibration, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
And I
sense.
mean, it sounds like I know what I'm talking about, but I don't. Because you just like kind of
You taught yourself.
you just kind of well, that's the thing. I don't think any of them know really, because you just kind of like flexing the top, because the top has to move. If it's too stiff, you won't vibrate enough, right? Because the sound is
Oh.
produced in the top. The back of the guitar basically just the sound just bounces around inside and comes out the sound hole. So all the
Mm.
sound comes from the top or the characteristics of the acoustic sound will come from the top. And
That's
that's what I'm
amazing.
kind of like working more on, like focusing more on that with each one.
Oh.
Yeah, there's always something, it never ends.
That's true. I mean, like again, in researching some of this, I looked at the lute, and like you were talking about how the emphasis was on pushing sound. Way back in
Yeah.
that day, they had strings and frets made of like guts of a goat, or like the sinews.
Yeah, guts. Yeah, and they could like move them around on the
They could
fretboard or something like
move the
that. I don't
frets.
know.
Exactly. They called
Yeah,
that
move the frets
temperament.
around.
So it wasn't
Yeah,
even, and they could be like, okay, this series
exactly.
of notes, this scale is going to sound really good if we do this, but then the other scale will not because you've moved the frets around. And they had a thing called temperament
Yeah.
that you could
I
change
mean, I didn't even
there.
know how they would tune things back in the day. Like, what was their reference? Like, were
But
tuning forks a thing back then? I think that was the earliest form of tuning, right?
yeah, they had a tuning fork,
I
so
don't
I
know.
guess they did that. But like maybe they did it by ear. But the interesting thing for them was it was a little bit more like what you're talking about, because with gut strings and gut frets, you didn't really make a loud sound. It didn't project that far, but you
Mm-hmm.
could sing. You could sing over it or talk over it while you were playing, and so everybody could
Mm-hmm.
just listen, and it wouldn't overshadow your voice. But then as time went on, obviously with metal strings and whatnot, it's they had to brace the guitars and everything, but it was more about projecting the sound. And now you're telling me like maybe it's actually with the advent of pickups and electricity, you can come back a little bit to maybe that day of gut strings.
Probably not, because I think that's a little weird. I still think, you know,
It's super
like
weird.
a lot of builders use bone nuts, and that's the piece on the top that keeps the strings, spread
Yeah.
out. A lot of people still use bone for that, and I think that's weird.
Is it
Um,
better for some reason, or
I
is it
I
just to
I
be
don't
cool?
I don't know. There's obviously there's some tonal characteristics. The bone versus what I use is this like uh, graphite impregnated stuff. I like
It's
it.
sounds strong. It sounds
Uh,
strong.
yeah, it works out for me. There's different tonal qualities to both. Is one better than the other? Who knows? Who's to say?
No doubt.
Yeah.
So what are some of the struggles that come with making guitars? I guess is a point that I wanted to know, because it is always fun to talk about how the it's so great and it's my passion and I love it, and we see a lot of
Yeah.
that out there. But one of the things you said was, "Hey, this is hard work. It's dangerous work." So
Yeah.
what are some of those struggles that you run into when you're doing this?
That's tough. I mean, yeah, obviously, I said that before, that it's dangerous work, it's hard work, it's dusty. It's
Mhm.
not healthy work for you to always be exposed to that amount of dust. That's why our shop is really great. We have our machine room and our bench room are partitioned off with a wall, so you're not constantly exposed to all that stuff. It's the dust room. You put your mask on, you do your work, you come back, and you don't have all that dust floating around anymore. Um, but struggles as building a guitar. I mean, there's a lot of competition, I guess you can say. A lot of independent builders are springing up now. A
Hmm.
lot of people, back it used to only be like the two big ones are what, like Fender and Gibson. You either you either buy a Fender style guitar or Gibson style guitar.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
a lot of people lately, I've been hearing a lot of musicians are like, I don't want like a factory guitar. I don't want a guitar that came out of a factory anymore. I want like something hand built by Luthier that actually cares, about it.
Mm.
It's not like some guy that it's his 9 to 5 factory job. He just happens to be putting guitars together. Um,
Wow.
so there's that. Other struggles. I mean, just like for me, building something I like, and at the end of the day, when the guitar is finished, being able to look at it and say, yeah, this is what I had in mind. This is good. Um, there's always like that self critique whenever I think
Oh.
with any creative type. You're building something out of nothing. Um, it's tough to not be hard on yourself at the end of the day.
That's
Really,
very true. I tell you, like, cause
Yeah.
I write, in the last novel that I did the first draft, right? And I was like, okay, I'm gonna ditch almost this entire thing. I hate everything about this. It happens to me a lot with writing. There's always a fight to try to not judge it too quickly.
Hmm.
Because with writing you have to redo a lot. It's just the way that it works. The first things you do are only the idea, really, and then
Hmm.
you're going to polish it up after that. It's kind of like before sanding, let's say, at first draft.
Hmm.
So I can understand maybe from that perspective, that I'm super super critical about anything that I make in that regard, and anything that's wrong with it is the thing that kind of pops out to me. So I mean, how do you
Yeah.
deal with that?
I don't know. I
Me
haven't
neither.
found a way to deal with it. Yeah, you just that's the thing. Whenever I finish one, I always look at it and keep a mental note of like, okay, this I got to tighten up. This is unacceptable. Well, no, not unacceptable. It's just like from a design standpoint, nothing. I won't finish a guitar that'll just implode, right?
Yeah.
Um, we're all talking about aesthetics here. Like, um, that's the big thing for me is aesthetics. Like I said, trimming the fat. How can I shrink this part down more? How can I make this part more efficient without any like useless, like I don't know, like carving or something like that. That's really not my style. I really like minimalistic. If it's there for a reason. Nothing is on this piece just because,
Wow.
just because it has to be there. Um,
So you're trying to take it
does
down
that
to
answer your
its
question?
leanest point. Yeah, no, I got you.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's
just
not really a
trimming it
question to
down.
be answered. I think it's a hard one
Hmm.
to do, because it's like saying, hey, how do you stop almost caring about your work in a way? If you say, how do you stop criticizing it? Because you do
Exactly,
have to critique
exactly.
yourself.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I mean, I've heard this with a lot of builders, and they said they're asked, have you ever built a perfect guitar or a perfect this or that? And they say, no. The day I do is the day I find something else to do.
Yeah, that makes a
Uh,
lot of sense.
yeah,
Because where else is there to go
yeah.
from
Where
there?
else you gonna go? You're done. Um, that's also what really uh, keeps me going is the challenge. There's always something else to try out to do, especially in woodworking. Um, can't think of anything right now, but
Yeah, you could go on forever,
there's always
probably, in that
something. There's
direction.
always something to push yourself. You can always do this better. You can always, and that really like keeps me going. It
Wow.
refreshes me.
So the guitar that's behind you right now, that is that your latest creation?
Yep, I finished it probably like last week, not even.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
So
So so
sorry.
do you want to see it?
Yeah, I'd like to. I want to know everything about it. Like how long did it take to make this, and how does it work?
So okay, so let's see here. Um,
Oh,
it's
that's cool.
hollow, it's let's see. Okay. So there's the talking about the bent sides and all that.
Yeah.
It's just one strip of wood that's bent into this guitar shape.
Whoa.
Um, and you can kind of see that. Let me flip it around. You kind of see like it borrows a lot from the violin. Super high bridge here.
Yeah.
Can kind of see
Yeah.
that? Okay. Um, that's where the arch top comes in, and you can see that the top has, and the back has this kind of like radius to it. It's not flat,
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah,
that
yeah. It
helps
kind
out.
of
Just
bows
yeah, you
out.
see that?
Yeah.
I'm trying to like show it off here. Um,
I see it. The edges are
so
thinner,
yeah,
and it
it's
kind of comes up like that.
yeah, so it's like really thick here, but it really thins out towards here.
Awesome.
Um, Traditionally, archtop guitars are, carved kind of like a violin. They have that bell shape carved into it. Um,
Wow.
and the reason why I didn't do that was because number one, it's a I wouldn't say a waste of wood, but it's 90% of that piece of wood is chips, like garbage, after you're
Mm.
done carving it. You're taking a 1 inch thick piece of wood and turning it into a 1/4 inch thick piece or less. So there's a lot of waste, and you're doing that on the top and on the back. Um,
Whoa, yeah.
and this is canary wood,
Oh, that
and
looks great.
it's not cheap. And if I were to, okay, here we go. If I were to take a 1 inch thick piece of this and carve it into that bell shape, that's a big waste. It's costs money too, you know.
Waste of wood and money there.
Um, I wouldn't call it a waste, okay? But it's a certain style that I wasn't interested in. Uh, the beauty of the way I do it is take that 1 inch thick piece of wood and slice it into six thinner pieces and do your match. So this is like uh, a match of that piece of wood glued together in the center,
Mm.
and I have a form with this curve in it. Spread some glue on it, put it in a vacuum press, and it's fixed into that radius. Um, so it doesn't really do much for the back. I mean, it strengthens it again like a Roman arch. There's no bracing under here, but it's
Wow.
it's stiff. You can't really do anything. You can't break it, you know. Um, so yeah,
It looks
that's why I
fantastic,
don't
man.
carve them.
That's why you don't
What
like
else?
to,
And
you like
so
minimalist
here's
more.
the okay, let me see here. That's wood, the wooden pickup that I've
Yeah.
been talking about.
I was like, because
There
when I
we
was
go.
looking at them, I was like, does this have pickups? Because I saw
Yeah,
only
that's the
wood.
pickup.
Whoa.
It's all in there, and I really like it because it's the same wood as the bridge. Uh, it's not like this, like I said,
That's
it's not
cool.
this like mechanical looking pickup that's like slapped in after the fact. It just kind of like flows with the woody aspect of the
Organically, if you
rest of the
will.
guitar. Yeah, organically, yes.
We like to say that.
Um,
Holistically.
yeah. So this is what I came up with after talking with the guys at the shop. Are just like, let me try this. There's got to be a way to do it because I already wind my own pickups, so that's a plus.
So
Um,
what does winding your own pickup mean?
so winding pickups, the reason why I started doing that um, was because first pickups are expensive. They're not cheap. When I was building my first guitar, I was looking at a set of pickups because generally an electric guitar has two, one in the neck, one in the bridge, and it's like $350 retail. And I was like, okay, so I got my builders accounts because builders, you get deals with manufacturers. It was still expensive even with a discount.
Wow.
um, and I was like, I try to be as self-sufficient as I possibly can. Like, I like doing everything on my own, especially, like the brass work here on the tailpiece. I didn't buy that. I made that,
Wow.
this little piece of brass here, and I could have, went out, bought something or had someone make it for me, which is what the guy suggested. They kept saying, get get someone to do it for you. And I'm like, no, I want to do it. I want to cut the middleman out. I want to do it. Um, so winding pickups, the one reason that I started doing it was cost. I could make a pickup for myself way cheaper than it does to buy one.
Okay.
So again, I just watched the YouTube video of it, and I was like, I can do this. I think
Okay.
bought some uh, bought some copper wire, and the copper wire is as thin as hair, basically,
Whoa.
and you're just wrapping it around a bobbin like 5,000 times
Oh.
and stick. Yeah, yeah. And if it's a humbucker, there's two coils, so it's 10,000 winds for both.
Whoa.
Uh, stick you stick a magnet in there, and it works surprisingly. When I finished my first pickup, I hooked it up. I'm like, there's no way this is gonna work, and it worked like right off the bat.
Whoa.
And it's so weird because you're staring at this mess of copper wire and a magnet, and you're like, wow, it works. And from what I understand, I think they came up with them in the 50s, maybe.
I think so.
I
Somewhere
think,
around that. Could have been
yeah, the
40s.
50s and
The 50s is when
40s,
we know.
50s, and the design hasn't really changed. I mean, it's still copper wire wrapped around steel with a magnet, and that's it. And there's a misconception that uh, well, it's a big debate whether in an electric guitar does the wood matter, and I'm going to say no, because pickup doesn't sense vibration; it senses magnetic disturbances, right?
Really?
Because the strings are magnetic, and there's a magnetic field coming out of the pickup constantly, and as soon as you pluck the string, it changes the magnetic shape or the field, the shape of the field, and it starts a current inside the copper wire because copper is not magnetic. So how does that work? So it creates right magnets. How do they work?
Yeah.
And
You're right. Like magnets, right? I'm sitting here going like,
right.
no.
So a little AC current goes on, comes out of the amp, and that gets translated into sound somehow. I don't know how it works. I just know it does. So I
I
keep
did
doing it.
not realize that. So you're telling me that it's actually the disturbance in the magnetic field when you're playing the strings and not the vibration that the pickup is picking up.
Exactly. Yep. It's the
Whoa.
disturbance in magnetic field. I know, right?
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Whenever I make one, it's like I mean, I wouldn't say I'm over it, but I know more or less how it works now. But when I first started, I'm like, that's it? Like it's just like, or like the first time you open the cover on the electric guitar in the back, you're like, what's in there? And there's like nothing inside. There's nothing in there. And you're just like, it's just like a bunch of wires and two little pots, and that's it. Um,
That's true.
I don't look at a guitar as like this mysterious object. I really like look at it as like I know how, I know this, not really the science behind it, but just like, I look at it at the simplest way I can, I guess. I don't know how to
Oh,
say that.
cool.
Like a pickup. What's a pickup? Pickup. It's copper wire and magnet. That's it.
No, you really
And
simplified the idea for me there because it's like,
yeah,
oh yeah,
well,
that's a
that's all it is.
classic.
Yeah. And then, once you get into pickup winding, then um, there's differences in the thickness of wire. That'll change the sound. If you use thinner wire with more winds, you'll get more of a darker sound out of it. Also, the type of magnet you use uh, influences from what my understanding, it's like how fast the AC current is.
Oh,
Whether if it's a weaker magnet, it'll kind of like alternate in one speed, and if it's a stronger magnet, it'll alternate quicker, from my understanding.
okay.
So if you use a weaker magnet, you'll get more of a smoother, kind of like more vintage sound. But if you're playing a lot of metal, you want to use a ceramic magnet that's really really strong. It'll uh, bring out, because the more winds you put, the more output. That's another thing. The more output you have in the pickup, the darker the sound is. You lose all the high end, and if you add a stronger magnet, you'll get the highs back or something. I don't,
Oh,
I don't know.
so it might sound a little more crisp, and then some of those like metal,
Yeah,
like
or
intense metal.
it's a lot. Yeah, but it's a lot like cooking too. How much of spice you add, this or that changes it. Um, you might end up with a pickup that sounds way too brittle, like way too shrilly,
Oh,
or one that's way too flubby sounding. There's there's a lot
flubby.
of ways to do it. Yeah, like flubby. There's no definition to the sound or anything.
Uh,
But there's a lot of like Gibson. I think they're credited with coming up with the humbucker back in the 40s or 50s again.
mm.
And their recipe is up online, and it's very simple. It's 5,000 winds per bobbin with an Alnico 5 magnet, and you can't go wrong with that combination.
It's pretty clean. Is Gibson the one that makes Les Paul? Or is that a
Yep.
totally okay? They make the Les Paul, right? Yes.
Yeah,
So
they make Les Paul. They make a bunch of stuff.
essentially, a lot of times I feel like that's more of a bluesy type sound, like bluesy rock sound. That I, in my mind, that's what I think of when I think of the Gibson.
Yeah, I mean, you can essentially play whatever you want on any guitar. I mean, you
For
could play
sure.
metal on this guitar. You could. There's nothing stopping you. But yeah, it's when it comes down to like a Les Paul, let's say, it's all about the electronics. A lot of people like, oh, it's the wood. No, it's not. It's not the wood. It's the electronics. And it's again, you can put a super high output pickup on a Les Paul and play metal with it, or you can put like a weaker vintage wind on it and play your bluesy, jazzy stuff on it.
Nice.
The one I have wound here is made. It's more of a vintage, lower output, like nice and crisp, clean sound. It's not really. I didn't build this guitar with the mind of having it distorted or uh, playing anything extreme on it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I see. I see. And then I do notice you have definitely made some solid body guitars that people play metal or that kind of thing on
Hmm.
as well. And this is like in a way a departure, I guess, from that. It's you might want a cleaner thing. Not that you couldn't play metal on it, but that's
Exactly, yeah. But it's,
yeah.
it's my intention was that this is more of a sensitive instrument, kind
Oh,
of, if that's,
sensitive.
yeah,
Nice.
sensitive.
Well, what would be I don't know if this is if you have this or not, but I'll ask you. What's an ultimate goal or dream, or do you think to the future and say, okay, what would be my grandest achievement in guitar making? I don't know if you have that or not, but I'm asking you if there is something. What do you aspire to?
I don't know. I like the direction I'm going in. Like if it keeps going, keeps progressing, I'll be happy. Probably if I could sell a guitar to like a big name or something, that would be great.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Just I
Who
I don't
would you like to
really.
see play your guitars? Like, who would be crazy if you were like, oh my god, this person's playing one of my guitars? What's going on? Who would
No,
that be?
probably Wes Borland, I'm gonna
Oh,
say.
hey, it could
You
happen.
know, I wish maybe in the future. I was a big fan of Limp Bizkit when I was a kid, man.
Me too.
No
I saw
shame in,
them
in
3 times,
admitting
I
that.
think.
That was my first show ever, was Limp Bizkit, back in what, 2000 or something.
Whoa,
Um,
like
I
Bell
was
Center
always
style.
into like, yeah, yeah. I'm on the fence of saying that Wes Borland is a very underrated guitarist, and the
Hmm.
reason why is because he's in that band.
Oh, that's
But
not cool.
I know, I think he's great. He does a lot of interesting stuff. Yeah, so if I could sell a guitar to Wes Borland, I'm giving up. Like that's it. I'm finished. I'm moving on to something else.
Nah, he was awesome. And you know what? When I saw that band, I can't remember a couple of times, probably around that time period. And I saw them at Woodstock 1999 as well. But
You were there, man?
yeah, yeah. So I'm kind of
I'm
old
really
too.
jealous because yeah, I wanted to go really badly,
Uh, n-
but I don't even know how old I was. How old was I? I was what, like 12 or 13 or something?
yeah, well, and
Maybe. I don't know.
and Limp Bizkit rocked the place like it was the most insane thing I had ever seen in my life. It was them pretty much, and Metallica had the craziest thing going on at that show. And I'm going to tell
They
you, it was
had that.
nuts.
Yeah, they had that documentary recently about Woodstock '99, like how
Oh,
much
really?
how badly of a disaster it was.
Because it
You
became
know,
riots at the end, but it was fun.
yeah, it was basically a riot. I forget how much they were selling bottled water for, but it was ridiculous. I think it was something like $5 for a bottle or something.
Sure, yeah, a lot of stuff was
And
expensive.
yeah, it was expensive. And by the end of how long was it? It was 3 days or something,
Yeah, it's
or
a 3 day thing. I think 3 days and maybe 3 nights too, something like that. Or maybe
yeah, by
four
the
days
end
and
of
four
it,
nights.
people
I barely. It's a long
they
time
just had
ago.
enough, and they just started tearing the place apart, basically.
You know what? From my perspective, what it was, I didn't
Hmm.
even think about that too much, but definitely people were thinking the prices were high. A lot of people were saying that. But at the end of the show, the last just before all the rioting happened, it was Red Hot Chili Peppers, right? And there was a lot of garbage around, and people were making bonfires, like huge 20-foot bonfires all over the place while Red Hot Chili Peppers were playing, right? And in the middle
Hmm.
of their set, they finished playing something, and then like somebody came out and said, "Hey guys, we got to put the fires down because it's not part of the show. It's dangerous, and if you could put the fires down, then that would be great." People sort of kicked them around a little, and there was less. And then Red Hot Chili
Hmm.
Peppers comes out and they start playing a cover of Let Me Stand Next to Your Fire. And the fires instantly became 10
Oh
times
yeah, yeah.
bigger, and people lost them. And from that point forward was like the riots started to happen and stuff. And so for me, I believe that Red Hot Chili Peppers is to blame.
Yeah, not Limp Bizkit. Don't you
It-
dare.
Not at all,
It
actually.
was it was all of them.
It was all of them. I honestly,
No,
Limp
it
Bizkit
was
was
Red
like the day before, the second day or something, and so there was a lot going on. It was a big show, but Limp Bizkit didn't cause that. Yeah, maybe at Bell Center and at a lot of other places. Like I came down from the stands in the middle of the show during that to be in the middle of the mosh pit and stuff because they did that kind of thing. They were
Mhm.
like, "Everybody come down," and they'd like rush
Oh
the
yeah.
pit. So anyway, I'm sorry I was getting off on a tangent there, but yeah, no, Limp Bizkit had one of the craziest shows I've seen live. I think at the Bell Center they had it was like a transformer where the whole band was inside. Like one
I can't. It was. I can't remember. I mean, this was so long ago. I'm sure it's on
yeah.
YouTube somewhere of that show. I seem to remember. Yeah, it was something. Then didn't they come out of something?
It's like a giant robot. I think they came
Yeah.
out of this giant robot's chest, and I think the drummer was in one shoulder, the DJ Lethal was in the other shoulder, and then the rest of the band
Oh,
came
I don't
out
think I saw
through.
that show.
Oh,
I
really?
don't think they
Okay.
had. Yeah, I think I saw them before that.
Probably. It
Um,
got big. It was
I
them and
saw.
Eminem that time that I saw it.
No, that's not what I saw. I
Oh,
saw, I forget one of the bands, but the band that opened was System of a Down
crazy.
before anyone knew who they were. Like no one
That's
cared
wicked.
about them. Yeah. I knew who they were. I had that first album. I really liked them. Like I grew up on new metal, all right? So,
Me too. Me
I
too.
did. Yeah. Um,
You will
I've
never
since
hear me
branched
hate on
off.
it. It was fun.
Never, man. You can't hate on new metal. Yeah, that was my first show.
Well, I hope that he eventually plays one of your guitars. Then I feel like we'll get there. We got to try to get one of these guitars into his hands then, because if you cared
I
about
kind of like,
no,
yeah,
please.
I wouldn't call it like a competition, but like, um, another guy in my shop, Nick, he's like a fan of West Borland too. So we're always like, who's gonna sell him a guitar first, me or him? You
Oh
know?
no.
So yeah.
Well, I hope you
So
win, I guess. But hey, if
me too,
either of
man.
you, does it, I'm still going to be impressed though, because you guys are part of the same co-op, so I guess it's kind of cool. But
Hmm.
at the same time, screw him. I hope you get it.
I'm not gonna say anything.
All right, cool, cool, yeah.
I got to see this guy every day. I got to keep it simple,
That's
civil.
true. That's true. All right. Well, look, sorry, man. But yeah, oh, that's cool. No, I didn't. It's funny though. I don't get a chance generally to talk about new metal anymore.
New
Like
metal.
I feel like
Y-
there's a million documentaries about how the collapse of new metal. What
I
happened to
find
new
it's like coming
metal?
back.
Is it?
I find it's coming back. Yeah, there's like a resurgence. Like Limp Bizkit's like back.
Are they?
Corn, yeah, they're like touring and stuff like that. They have a new album out. It's not that good, but they, you know. Oh wait, I'm trying to sell him a guitar. Never mind. No, it's the greatest album ever.
Of course.
Um, but yeah, the corn's like cool again. I'm happy to see that because I grew up on that. A lot of the generation before grew up on like Motley Crue and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
each generation has their own version of new metal, I think.
For sure, it
So
was
I don't know
maybe
what it
Guns N'
is now,
Roses
but
and Motley Crue
yeah,
and those hair bands. Even Metallica, though they were around all through the '80s, but they continued through the 90s.
They did, yeah, and they're still around now, and you know, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, who's to say?
Hey, look, they're doing the thing they want to do though, right? That's like what's
Uh,
important.
yeah, I guess so, but
You seem dubious.
are they still really? Can they do better? Like I know it's so easy to make fun of that snare drum sound, Saint Anger. Um, they could have maybe worked on that one a little more.
All right. You're probably right.
Or that album they made with Lou Reed. I mean,
Real I don't know. I
I
don't
don't know
even
about
heard.
that one.
Is it not so
Uh,
great? I guess
it's
Lou Reed
not
sounds
not
cool.
so
He
good.
was cool back in the 70s.
Yeah, and that was the legacy he left was Lulu with Metallica. I don't know uh,
The legacy he
if
left.
if if I was Lou Reed, I don't know how I'd feel about that, but it's done.
It's
Can't
happened
take it
already,
back.
man. Man,
Yeah,
I feel like you're definitely throwing them under the bus a little bit. I like the way you do it too. Like we can't. Who's to say if it was good or bad? But that's what it is now. It exists. Whew.
I'm not in no position to judge. So
That's true. I feel that way too.
yeah,
I never judge any of these guys. That's why I didn't have a problem with it. It's essentially if I like the sound of the thing, that's the way I'll be like, hey, I like this band. I like the way they sound. All of the coolness factor or any of that stuff, I tried to just remove it because
hmm
people always do want to say something, to trash something that's new or trash something that they don't like personally or
oh
that kind of
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
totally.
So, but yeah, it's true though. If bands get older sometimes and they still do the thing they like to do, but I guess they're experimenting with different directions or maybe they lose their
Or
way or that kind of thing.
yeah, they lost their way, but the paycheck still keeps coming in, so they might as well just keep doing it.
Yeah,
Um, there's that side of things too, where it is a job. That's what they do.
that's true.
They've got their mansions and their ranches to pay for, so they
They
have to
do.
keep doing it.
They got to
Yep.
keep it going. Probably ex-wives and stuff as well, kids all
Oh
over.
yeah. Oh yeah.
So, but hey, they were rock
Um,
stars. They were rock stars. I don't know. Do you feel like these days people could be a rock star? Like, is there a way to be a
no,
legit rock star like that?
no, that is finished.
Wow.
Like record labels, like first of all, nobody buys music anymore. What the big thing now is streaming.
Yeah.
Um, so the bands don't get paid. That's a whole other thing too that I'm not really well versed in, but I
Sure.
that's all I hear is that the bands don't get paid, blah blah. Smaller bands, big bands are still making money, but the big thing is um, record labels won't take a chance anymore. Like on a new band, they'll. It's same with movies too. They won't
Yeah.
take a chance. Movies are very expensive to make now. Um, they're just going to keep doing what what works, what keeps people coming to the theater, what keeps people buying the albums, coming to the shows. That's what they're going to keep doing.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's true.
but the great thing is these days it's very easy for a band to record their own stuff and put it online. It doesn't take much these days. Back in the day, you had to get signed to a record label because making an album cost hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Hmm.
Um, Now, not so much now, and that's great. There's um, a lot of great underground, like not underground. I hate that word, but independent um artists, doing their own thing, and they can do it because they don't have to worry about uh, selling this many albums at the end of the month, or they're done. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Wow. So that brings me to the business side of things, of course, because obviously you have to sell these guitars at some point. I
hmm
assume. How do you
Yep.
do that? If somebody saw this right now and said, "Hey, wow, I love this guitar that I see behind him. I want to buy it." What do you generally do? How does that process work?
Right now, I mean, Instagram, basically. Just
Nice.
contact me on Instagram. Everything I've ever sold was either through friends, someone seeing it in person, and that's, coming back to COVID, that hasn't been a thing lately.
Hmm.
But yeah, Instagram's my number one thing. Contact me. I'm, Very approachable. Ask me whatever you want. If you're interested, go for, ask me.
That's cool.
Um,
And I'm also curious too. Do people sometimes say, "Hey, could you make me a custom thing?" Or do you ever make guitars particularly for a person? Or is it really just like more your works that you're doing and you take it or leave it?
it's more my work to do it, especially with this because I have all the molds and all that stuff.
Mm,
To reset, to build more molds, would take so much time, and just exponentially increase the price of the instrument. Whereas I think this looks pretty cool. If you think it's pretty cool, here it is. Um, Speaking about custom, I mean, obviously we can chat about the type of wood that goes into it, what kind of pickup you want in it, um, how thick you want your neck carved. That's a big thing too. Some
mhm.
guys like really thick, chunky necks. Others thinner, more low profile. So
Okay. You can
it's a
kind of work
balancing
on a
act
lot of
where,
things.
yeah, there's y- at the end of the day, yeah, it's like I'm building it for someone else, but I have my hard nose where it's like, no, I won't do that. I won't make this god awful shape that I'm not into or anything like that. Like I have to be into it too, right? Or else I'm just not going to be into it.
That's awesome.
Um,
That's awesome. This is what I love to hear too. And I'm seeing that a lot more lately too, where people create the thing they want to create. If other people want to be a part of it or want to buy that, that's great. But
mhm.
you're making something that you believe in, essentially. You're not making
Yeah,
a guitar you don't like just because someone's offering you money for it. You're making the things you want to make.
yeah. I mean, yeah, basically.
You're like, if it was
You,
a
you,
certain amount of money, anyone could be
yeah,
bought.
I mean, that's the thing too. Absolutely. Um, but yeah, I have to be into it, or else I won't do a good job. I'll just be like, if I have to come in and look at this thing for the next month and a half or 2 months or whatever,
Wow.
I won't do a good job. I'll just rush it out the door so I don't have to look at it anymore, and that's it. But I don't like working like that. I really like to put a lot of myself into everything I do.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Wow. Well, I certainly appreciate it. I feel like I don't want to take up your whole day. I could ramble and we could talk
Hmm.
about Limp Bizkit and guitars
All day
forever.
long.
But is there anything else like that you really wanted to say or you really wanted people to know that maybe we didn't cover? Just to like I other than get a hold of you on Instagram and get some of these guitars because it's really awesome. That's pretty much my pitch.
Well,
That's
yeah.
my pitch. They're awesome. Go get them.
Yeah, check out my Instagram. I'm sure you're gonna have the link of it
It's right
somewhere
above you right
here,
now.
right here. Check it out. I try my hardest to really capture uh, the process of the craft, like the romance behind putting
Ah,
these together, because a lot of people just think, oh, you just grab this and it's done. And like, no, there's a lot of steps involved before it gets put into a guitar, or like I said, it starts off as raw wood and turns into that. There's a
wow.
lot of steps in between.
That's for sure. And
So
it
yeah,
actually has to play too, because you're that's the
yep,
thing I really like about your artwork is it's artwork that makes artwork, essentially.
yeah, they're tools, right? They help other people create music.
Yeah.
So it's a weird cycle. I mean, I still think sometimes I just stop and think like building guitars is like weird. It's such a weird thing to do every day. Um, but I don't know.
What's weird about it really?
It's
Like
just
it
weird. I
seems
don't
normal
know.
because
It's
we've all seen guitars, but maybe
I don't know.
it
I once you start building them and putting them together and seeing behind like how they get put together. That was the big thing. Like when I started building guitars, like I had no idea how they get built. And then once I saw it, I was like, this is weird. I mean, I don't know. There's like it's these pieces of wood with these strings, and they're bending this, so it's bent too much. You have to straighten that out. Um, it's I don't know. It's just weird building guitars. It's strange.
I guess it is. And then
Hunks
later
of wood
on,
with strings. I don't know, and they make music somehow.
that's true. Later on, somebody's, strumming on these things with their two hands, doing two different things down a fretboard, and then
Yeah,
it's noise we like.
it's noise we like. It's weird. I don't know,
Well, now I'm going to think
but
of
I
it
love
that
doing
way.
it.
You love
Yeah,
doing it. That's the thing, that is the thing, right? Finding it's tough, I think, for people sometimes to find a thing that they love to do. I like your story too, because it wasn't that you directly went into guitar building. It was that, like, okay, you know what? Why don't I, the band breaks up and there's always seems to be
yeah,
some kind of catalyst where it's like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing right now. So instead of sitting around being sad or something, you were like, well, why don't I learn about this cabinet making, and why don't I learn about furniture making, and then, hey, you know what, I love music, I always did, why don't I apply this to guitars? Like, love it.
yeah.
I
And,
love
and
that.
that was a lot of it. It was like, let me see if this works, and it does. And I think it's important that um, you the first time you try anything new, it won't be great, but it'll work. And I think that's important. Like, um, your first attempt at something has to work, and you can kind of like, okay, I can see where I went wrong. I can see where I can improve. And that's basically that's my everyday. It's like, where can I improve?
Yeah, it also seems like you were willing to take the risk though too. That is something I think
Oh,
a
it's
lot of
big
people have
risk too.
trouble. Yeah.
Yeah, it's big risk. When I first built these guitars, like I said, all the tension, well, not all the string tension, but there's a force applied to the top. And I was just waiting for it, to tune it up, and the top just like collapsed in on itself. Yeah, or the tailpiece gets ripped off, or the guitar just like folds itself in half. Um,
Wow.
but it didn't. um,
It didn't.
but it
That's
didn't.
yay.
It didn't. Thanks to the guys at the co-op. Um, but yeah, it's a risk, and it's it's difficult to sometimes take a risk, but you have to just say, you know what, I got nothing to lose. Let me just try this out. And
Yeah.
sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I mean, there's a lot of prototyping stuff that I've done on previous guitars that I just totally abandoned, like, or even like started building something halfway and said, no way, this is not going to happen.
Wow.
And you just put it aside.
Yeah. So that's how you deal with it when it's something that doesn't work. Because I think it's tough. Some people are sensitive these days, I guess. Like we're maybe
Yeah.
artists too, particularly, can be sensitive. And therefore it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
I'm a
it didn't work. And
yeah,
it
I'm a
becomes
big fan
dramatic.
of prototyping. Like, you always, like, especially the wooden bridge here. I didn't bust out the expensive wood right away. I built it out of like cheap wood, like pine and stuff like that first, just like get the proportions of it right, or just like to flex it to see if it'll withstand the tension. Uh, yeah, I'm a big fan of prototyping. Um, seeing it in person first. I'm not really great at drawing, so I
Mm.
don't tend to really draw stuff out too much. I'm a big fan of just like getting the wood in your hands and just working it and seeing what happens.
Give it
Um,
a try.
yeah,
Give it a
yeah,
try.
give it a try. Take a risk, and especially, and then like sometimes when even if you think you planned everything out, it still doesn't work out. So it's
For sure.
dealing with that.
That's kind of what reality is in a way, though, right? Is we can
Hmm.
always theorize and we can make good plans and very good strategies, but I think that I like the idea that you have there of the prototype, because what a prototype is, you're assuming that maybe there's going to be some problems with that, rather than saying this is the
Yeah.
finished product. No, this is the prototype, and we're going to hope, we're doing our best, and we're going to hope that it works, but the things that break are going to teach us what's the next step in making the finished
Not
product.
even necessarily. It's not even something that'll break.
Hmm.
It's like, before this, I you mentioned a semi-hollow,
Yeah.
and I thought semi-hollows were the way to go. And what a semi-hollow is it's hollow except for the middle strip has a piece of wood running down inside of
Okay.
it. Um, So I was like, yeah, it's really like a marriage between an electric guitar and a hollow guitar, you know.
Hmm.
After I built it, I was really disappointed with it because I spent all that time bending that wood, putting the thing together, because you still have to build it like a hollow guitar, but there were like zero acoustic properties to it.
Oh,
And I was really disappointed with it. And I said, it sounds great. It's an electric guitar, but I, went through all that just to build a lighter electric guitar.
I understand.
So, you know,
Rough.
so that's why I was like, you know what, semi-hollows, if someone really wants some, yeah, I'll do it. But I really want to focus on the hollow bodies and, working on shaving the bridges, tuning the top, voicing it, uh, bringing out more acoustics out of it. Because with a semi-hollow, um, you can't because the top is like super stiff. The top can't vibrate enough to get
Wow.
any acoustic property out of it.
So really the hollow is it's although it is an electric guitar, it absolutely has like we did talk about that earlier where yeah, you could have a microphone at the body and you're getting that resonance from the body.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just not going to happen
Mixing
with a
both.
semi-hollow.
It can, but it's just really really neutered. It's a really neutered acoustic
Yeah,
quality to
okay.
it. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool though. So that means you care about the sound quite a bit it seems. Like it
Well,
would make
yeah,
sense. It would make sense, but like you could have, oh, it's an electric guitar and that's what it's for. You know, but you're saying, yeah, you know what?
exactly.
We can have both.
Exactly. Why not both?
I agree. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Well, okay. I feel like I'm gonna ramble. I'm sorry. That's kind of what I do. I end up
All
rambling
right.
for forever and ever, and you probably have other things to do with your time in life. You probably have guitars, hollow bodied guitars to start working on.
More guitar, more wood to put together.
Indeed. So look, man. Thanks so much. It's awesome to meet you. I learned a lot about guitars and how it works. I just like to hear how people's minds work on this stuff too. And
Hmm.
yeah, you like a lot of the people I've talked to. It's just that you care about the thing that you're doing, and you're doing it. You know, you're doing it and succeeding at it. It doesn't sound like a lot, but for some
Somehow,
people,
somehow.
that's very hard. You know, for some people,
Hmm.
it's very hard. They take the easy road or the soft road or whatnot, or
It's
take a
not easy.
safe road.
Yeah, it's not easy, but I enjoy it. So
Uh, Thanks
keep
so
doing
much
it.
for being here, man.
Somehow.
Thank you so much for being here. And
Well, thank
anybody
you so much.
who wants to see you, there, your name is up top. Also, all of the links I'm going to put down below for any of your links that you need. I'm going to put them below, and they can click on that and get a hold of you if they want a guitar or if they just want to follow you on Instagram and see the building process. They can do all of that. So again, thanks so much for
Fantastic.
being here, man.
Well, thank you so much for having me.